All right, today is April 21st, 2021. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. We'll go down our usual release agenda. Starting with 119, from last time we synced up with the infra folks, and we figured out the process to actually promote binaries. So I think I'm working with Jing to get that figured out, and then we should be good to go. Moving on, what's going on? Moving on to 121. We are in the middle of some sidecar releases. I think also we have some project updates too. Maybe we'll go down those first, starting with snapshots.
Yeah, so right now we're just waiting for the PR that we're updating storage version to V1. So Shanshan has reviewed it. Doing some testing. It seems okay. But we actually just talk about this in the data protection work group. So should we actually declare V1 beta 1 deprecated when we release this? Because we need to say
yeah.
you delete that remove that in a couple of releases, right? 3 releases or something. 1.24.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, do we actually need to make some code changes to pop up some message or something, or is it just we just delete that? I don't know if
I think in the PR that changes the storage version, we can also generate the release note for it. That's fine.
Okay, so you're saying just release note is enough. You don't have to. Okay, sure.
Well, yeah, I would say to just declare it deprecated. That's all you need to do. Maybe in a future release, we could update the validating webhook to also generate the Kubernetes warning header that says you are using a deprecated feature, stop it. But that's optional as far as I know to generate that warning.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it's actually done.
I'm not sure.
Is it actually done for CRDs?
I don't. That part I'm not sure.
I think validating webhooks, in addition to denying the operation, are allowed to accept it with a warning.
But that is if you are using a webhook, and webhook is also some people if they don't even install that, right? So they may not be able to get that even.
Yeah, but the point is we could add that maybe in the future to our webhook. If you try to use V1 beta 1 in a future release, we'll generate a warning to say stop that. You know, you're using a deprecated feature. You should switch.
Well, we can add that one now. I just need to figure out how to add it. Not sure. Just every time someone is using V1 beta 1, we just show a message in the log, I guess.
I could dig up the new Kubernetes feature for API warnings and send you a link.
Okay.
But I thought we were in a hurry to get the new snapshot release out, and we didn't want to add more work.
We can see how much work it is, then we'll decide.
Yeah.
If it's a lot of work, then maybe we can do that later. But if it's not too much, maybe we can do it now. I just don't know how that is done.
All right, I'll find the new feature and send you a link.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you. Next is Populators.
So I pushed the PR to addressing the code review comments from Sheng, including removal of all the dependencies and stuff, and I'm now working on fixing my release tools. It has occurred to me that I may have done something horrible with the way I initially added release tools, and I don't know if it makes sense to try to go back and undo it by altering the Git history, or if I should just try to apply fixes on top of the existing Git history for the volume data source validator repo, which currently has like 11 commits or something.
Is it possible to apply on top?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out once you've done something bad with Git subtrees, can you undo it and get back to a sane state? I guess
what was the issue that you hit?
Well, the issue was that I initially added the subtree per the instructions, which got the latest version of the repo. Then in a later commit, not using the git subtree command, I reverted to an older version of the release tools repo that actually worked. But now when I try to run like the git subtree update or pull command to like get the new version again, it gets confused because it can't figure out what happened in the history. And I was reading the docs and it says that you should not do the thing that I did. So now I'm thinking maybe there's a way to recover, or maybe just rewriting the history to get out of this bad situation would be the better thing to do. And
Well, I guess you can always just remove the directory. Basically, git rm recursive for the subdirectory, and then add the subtree again from scratch. That should work. It then will have
yeah,
to. Yeah.
I may try that because that's what I basically want to do is I want to basically reboot the whole release tools subdirectory with the current version of release tools and see if I can make it work that way. And yeah,
I'm wondering whether that will show up as a custom commit in your history, because that is something that the test subtree test checks for. It basically ensures that the subtree the release tools directory doesn't have local modifications. And if you manually remove it, that might show up. I'm just thinking aloud here. I've never tried that.
I thought we relaxed that check to check for content rather than commits.
No, I don't think we changed the check itself. It worked the same way for squashing as it did before for importing for full history.
okay, well,
I think we did something like I thought we did something like we only checked the last commit or something like that. Because we have run into this issue with other repos before, and I remember we relaxed the check a little bit to allow for like fixing things later.
I know that some release branches have done that, but those basically have forked locally the entire directory.
No, I mean we've definitely have messed up the release tools subtree before in other repos, and I remember we relaxed that check so that we could apply fixes on top, and the check would still pass. I don't remember exactly the check that we did. Anyway, like I think we can continue with this approach, and we'll figure out what to do if that check still fails.
Okay, well, I imagine I'll have to do something like that. I don't know enough about how Git subtree works internally, so I need to read all the Git docs just so I know what it's trying to do, and then figure out what is the right way to just sort of force it into the updated state.
Just to clarify, I'm looking at the verify subtree shell script, and it's exactly the original version that I committed. So no other commits on top of that. But well, yeah, just try whether it works. And
okay, thank you. Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Well, no, wait a second. There is a relax check. Yeah. Oh, there is one indeed, one additional check. But that was before. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is indeed covering the situation where there was an old release tool directory, and then you remove that and start from scratch. That part actually is covered by an initial explicit commit here, so that should work. Michelle remembers my work better than I do. Impressive.
Okay, well, hopefully by the next day or two, I'll have my release tools trees all sorted out in these repos, and we can do alpha releases.
Awesome. Great, thanks. Let us know if you run into any more issues with the release tools, and we can help out with that.
Sure thing.
All right, thank you. And then next is expansion.
I have to ping Sung for updating his PR to talk to basically implement what we discussed on Monday. I'll do it now. The release of the CI for this repository is broken. I asked Patrick, did we delete travis.yml?
Yes,
Yes.
we did. Yes.
Okay. Okay. It points to a non-existing file. And we removed the Travis integration as well, right?
Well, that basically was the Travis integration. There was nothing else. But yeah, we removed that because we no longer wanted to support it.
We still have. Sorry.
Which CI is broken?
Oh, it's just the badge on the external resizer, and then we should remove the invalid symlink in the root of
Yes,
the tree.
if you do that, then it will stop triggering the Travis CI jobs.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, and then I'll ping Sung about the feature gate thing we discussed on Monday. See what he thinks, and yeah, I don't have anything new actually.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. All right, going to the sidecar releases. Looks like we are done with external provisioner. Thank you, Chris. I believe external attacher has also been released.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. Let me. This is done. We got 2.0 or 2.2.0. All right. Resizer 1 PR pending. Snapshotter 1 PR pending. Everything else doesn't need releases, it looks like. Oh, there's, yeah, CSI proxy. I think we're gonna not track CSI proxy as part of this cycle. And then host path, we need to wait till everything else is released. So it looks like we just have resizer and snapshotter left. Awesome, great work. Let's see. Okay. Any
Does that mean
other...
there will be no new release for Node Driver Registrar?
Yeah, I think when we last checked, okay, the spacing totally did not work. When I last checked, there weren't any PRs that went in.
Okay, so the rule is if no change, no release.
Yeah.
Basically, makes sense.
Yeah. Last time I looked, I think the only commits that went here were the ones that updated release tools, but there were no actual like other things that went in.
I was wondering about like dependencies on Kubernetes stuff, if those had to be bumped periodically.
I see. Yeah, I mean, they should, but I think Node Driver Registrar actually doesn't call the Kubernetes API. So I don't actually think there's any Kubernetes dependencies there.
Okay.
There was a security vulnerability thing reported, but maybe not registrar doesn't need it.
The gRPC update, that might be relevant.
It might be. Yeah. I guess after some, let me see here. Someone reported, was there a security? This one. So this one, this person reported an issue with 2.0.1. We have released, yeah, we released something later, so I don't know if this issue still exists.
That bug is completely different. That's not the gRPC vulnerability, and it's really just a fairly obscure image scanning issue that he is running into, related to time zone data in the image. I'm really not sure what we should even bother, to be honest.
Okay, but okay, so you mentioned there's another gRPC vulnerability?
I think that was the reason for the latest Kubernetes update. Jan, I think, mentioned it in one of his comments. I wasn't really aware of a vulnerability, but it is an encoding issue in gRPC that came to light recently, and Kubernetes updated the dependencies of gRPC for that reason. That is what I remember.
I
Okay.
remember one issue in gRPC, and that's the generator for Go, generated code with CVEs. So everything that imports anything generated needs to be updated. And I don't see.
Does that mean the whatever is generating it also needs to be updated to generate a new version?
Yeah. I think the protobuf version here is old. No, it should be okay. I can check after the meeting.
Okay. All right, then I'll add a note. Maybe we do want to release some new things just so that we can patch our dependencies.
Well, have we done that for the other repos?
As long as you upgrade to new Kubernetes, like 121 client Go and API and everything, then you get
that pulls it in. Okay.
Yeah, that pulls it in, and it pulls the newly generated code from Kubernetes. So that's the thing that was actually vulnerable. The client Go and all the protobuf generated code, or gRPC. I don't remember. CVE in node registrar.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, let's Jan, you'll double check if we need to update node driver registrar anyway. Can you also check liveness probe?
Sure.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Any other topics?
For the host path driver, I would like to do an update soon to have some, not waiting for the other sidecar. Oh, well, we seem to be fairly close, right? Perhaps I should just
talking about that PR that your
it's this one PR.
I think it's I actually tried it. It seems to be fine for snapshot. I asked Ryan to just test the whole the voting house part just to make sure that it works as expected. And then I think I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
so
we were kind of hoping to get a CSI driver host path release out as quickly as possible to update Kubernetes. But now the PR that I have pending for the sidecar update in Kubernetes, it basically keeps using the older host path driver, and we have less time pressure to get something out. So it perhaps might just be better to release all the sidecars, do the normal host path driver update with all features and bug fixes that we can accumulate until then. And that includes the one PR that I've pending against it. So yeah, okay, well, we'll just wait as described here.
Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. All right. Any other topics?
If we have a... Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Christian.
I was going to say, if we had a minute, if we could discuss the forward node end stage or force node end stage test failures. There was a PR that was open because we're getting quite a number of flakes on the snapshotting tests when we test with non-host path drivers. And we had discussed on the PR about creating 2 separate test suites, but I didn't know if there was any action needed on this PR to push it through if we're taking this approach. And I can get it linked in soon.
So what was the problem? You're saying it's actually related to snapshot for some reason?
When we take the snapshot test, if the volume doesn't sync or flush its cache, or the snapshot is created before the content is actually pushed to the backend. And there was a patch done for Windows environments where we wait until node unstage volume successfully completes, but we need to do the same thing in Linux distros as well. It doesn't reproduce with the host path driver, but we've seen it in our tests on AWS, Azure, and GCE drivers fairly consistently.
That's interesting because it looks pretty clean here.
Yeah. When
Yeah,
I went
it's
to
surprising.
I went to this test grid
But-
to kind of say, hey, this is where we're seeing the failures, and it was all green. So great.
But I saw it also in the GCE once in the past 2 weeks or something like that. And I posted in the PR, or maybe not in the PR, maybe in the issue, but it happened once in GCE.
Okay.
Anyway, but Amazon and Azure is like, it's full of it. And they don't run snapshot test upstream, it seems. You only hit it in OpenShift. Anyway, so is the PR ready or what's remaining there?
Yeah, I think it's ready. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we follow up later and add another test case for the coverage that we're going to lose by changing this one.
Okay, I can create an issue so we can try getting this another test added.
I see a lot of flakes here, but they're not related to snapshots, it looks like.
And I'm very sorry, I need to step away for just a second.
All right, but yeah, that plan sounds good to me.
I linked the GC flag. Where is it? Compute. It's on pull request. It's not periodic. Test failure.
Oh, it's a poll failure, not a
Yeah.
CI failure. Okay.
I don't know how
All
it
right.
works.
All right. So I had one issue. Andy opened a PR to actually change some unmount cleanup when the device if the host is
Node
down.
is down.
Yeah. Now now I was thinking like he's changing it to ignore the host is down errors and just return success in the remove mount function. But when we change when we change in kubelet to not create the publish path, the drivers should, the spec also says it's the drivers that should create the path, and the spec says the drivers is the one that should remove the path. So it sounds like the drivers is the one which should be responsible for any mount, unmount, anything like, and it should not bubble up to kubelet, right?
This is the like the driver should be the one that detects this. Is that what you're saying? And kubelet shouldn't.
Yeah, the
I
kubelet.
think I found it.
The kubelet is not the one that should be removing the kubelet is not the one that should be removing the directory, actually, the publish path. It does currently, but yeah, it checks if it is a mount point, and that's where stat call hangs, because kubelet try to check it and then it fails. I'm thinking that this should not come to it. And then there is a
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I remember Andy had originally added some checks into like corrupted directory checks into the CSI part, and then we had this whole discussion about like we shouldn't be doing this, and I thought at that time we agreed that we would deprecate the behavior where deprecate and remove the behavior where kubelet creates the mount directory. And as part of that removal, we also remove the logic that kubelet is doing to check for corrupted directories.
yeah.
And push it onto the drivers. And I thought that was what we agreed upon there.
Yeah, there's a But the CSI, the mount utils code that exists in our this thing, that is like anyone that calls clean, like what is that function, whatever, that
Clean mount point.
yeah, that code is kind of, it enforces that, like the check of it. So we might have to do something there, because that code basically that code doesn't work for every driver. So but it's okay. I think you just need to parameterize it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. We should also go back and revisit this mounter code and see if we actually remove those other corrupted directory checks.
Yeah.
This was
That's-
tear down. This is, yeah, I don't see anything else besides tear down. So I think we removed the other one from, I think the other one was in the publish part originally. Okay. Yeah.
You might have to take a look
Oh,
at
sorry.
the existing drivers and see if they're removing the directory correctly as per this.
Yeah.
And
But I
don't know
think
if we
this
have-
is. Oh, are you saying this remove mounter call is wrong? The one before it, or?
Yeah, actually we shouldn't be removing this directory kubelet. Because the spec says that the driver should remove the directory. We could
sorry, is this the actual mount one, or is this the higher the parent?
The dir is actually the mount one. So we remove I think we remove both.
Okay.
Yeah, we remove both. So we remove the mount directory, and also we remove because in the
parent.
Because in the parent we put some data JSON files, so we remove the JSON and then we remove the parent. So we should just remove the JSON and the parent. We should not remove the mount directory.
Yeah, I guess we missed this when we did it the other way. When we were working on the cleaning up the node publish part, we missed the teardown part. But that might require another deprecation notice and period before we can make the change to make sure make sure drivers have time to adjust.
Yeah. Okay. So also we might need a CSS sanity test actually to make sure the drivers implement unpublished correctly.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I will make sure somewhere it is tracked. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Any other topics? All right, then we'll end for today. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.